Hey everybody, welcome back. So in 2025, I read 133 books. And since I wasn't really making content at the time, I thought I would go through my Goodreads today and just give a rapid fire yes, no, or maybe for every single book I read. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Some things to think about. First of all, I'm going through Goodreads, and everyone knows Goodreads is a disaster. So I'm already noticing that the list is a little out of order. The plan is just to go month by month, yes, no, or maybe whether or not I generally liked it and would recommend it, okay? I'm going to do my best, even though I tend to be long-winded, to just rapid fire yes, no, or maybe. I will go through and tell you if I gave it 5 stars. I will tell you if it was a reread or not. And I will try to do my book of the month for each month. Now, when I say yes, no, or maybe means would I recommend it, okay? I'm not always talking to you in particular, okay? In 2025, I ended up reading quite a bit more variety than I usually do, which was a good thing. I was in a couple like bingo boards on Instagram, and I did some like readathons and stuff with some Discord groups, and it was all very fun, and it helped me push out of my comfort zone. But my typical genre is, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and I did read a lot of those things. In fact, primarily those things. But I also read some rom-coms, some cozy mysteries, some monster smut we're going to get into. So if I'm talking about a book, obviously I'm talking about me and my experience. But if I'm recommending something that is not your jam, I'm not talking to you. Just don't even worry about it, okay? This might be really boring. I may never make a video like this again, but I wanted to try it because I kind of thought it would be fun. So without further ado, yes, no, or maybe for 2025. All right, let's start off, of course, with January. I do have my laptop right here with Goodreads, so forgive me if I'm looking down a lot, but I want to know what I'm talking about. And like I said, I'm really going to try not to ramble too much. So I started out the year very strong with A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay. I gave this 5 stars, a definite yes. The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is book 1 in the Dandelion Dynasty. And yes. The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. Yes. The Death of Kings. This is book 6 in the Last Kingdom books by Bernard Cornwell. And that is, of course, a yes for me. I love those books. Earthbound by Katie Stein. This is a independently published book. It's a duology. And I read the first book last year and absolutely loved it. I can't wait for book 2. This was 5 stars. A yes for me. Voyager by so this is Outlander number 3 by Diana Gabaldon. And again, I love these books. So yes, it's a yes for me. And I finally read Leviathan Wakes, which is the first book in The Expanse. As you'll find out, I didn't read any other Expanse books last year, and I'm not sure why, because this was a yes. I really, really liked it. In January, I also read James by Percival Everett, and it was a big yes. I really, really liked this book. I think it will become a classic in its time. Okay, in January, this is when I started dabbling with some romantasy, and I wanted to give it a fair shot. So, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This got a maybe from me, okay? I understand why it's popular, probably not the book for me, so we're going to give it a generalized maybe. Trigger Warnings. This is a short story collection by Neil Gaiman, and this is a yes. I like Neil Gaiman a lot. And the last thing I read, it looks like, oh no, I got a couple more in January. Hold on. Sorry, Goodreads puts it all over the place, so it's a little confusing for me. But I read The Great Hunt. So this is book 2 in Wheel of Time. I started a reread with a couple buddies on a Discord, and it was the first time for a few of them. So it was a really fun reread experience. But The Great Hunt is one of my very, very favorite Wheel of Time books, period. So yes, and I gave this 5 stars. And then the final book I read in January was The Trial of Rooker Flynn. And this is book 2 of the Locke Institute trilogy by A.R. Witham. I love these books. I gave this one another 5 stars. As far as book of the month for January goes, I am going to give it to Guy Gavriel Kay with A Brightness Long Ago. All right, moving on to February. The first book I read in February was I continued with my Rebecca Yarros, Iron Flame. This trilogy has a name. I don't know it. But this was a maybe. This book was worse than the first one. But she does something with the endings that always hook you in, to where the whole book I was like, this isn't that good. But the ending was like, damn it, I'm definitely going to read the next one. So that one's a maybe for me. I did a reread of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms by George R.R. Martin, and that was a yes, of course, 5 stars. I could read 100 of those stories if you would keep writing those Dunk and Egg stories. I love them so much. Another reread here, I read Empire of Silence. I did an entire Sun Eater reread in 2025. The reread was one of my favorite things I did. I gave it 5 stars again, of course. So yes, on Empire of Silence. The Dragon Reborn, another 5 stars for me. It's a yes. I love The Wheel of Time. Okay, here's one that might be a bit surprising. This is one from my book club I did with my grandma. We called it our Granny Book Club, even though I am so much younger than all of them. These are ladies in their 70s and 80s. We did one book a month and it was so fun. This one was called All the Ever Afters. It is the untold story of Cinderella's stepmother. I honestly thought this was kind of going to be a throwaway book for me, but I ended up loving it. It was really well written and far more interesting than I could have predicted. So I did give it 4 stars, but an absolute yes and a recommendation. All right, next I read the final book that's out in the, oh, here it is, the Empyrean Saga series? I don't know. Anyway, the Rebecca Yarros 4th Wing books. I read the 3rd one, which is called Onyx Storm. Again, with a maybe. Like, I go most of the book being like, this isn't that good, and then the ending always grabs me, so I will read the next one, but I would still call it a maybe. All right, I got back to The Last Kingdom, and I read The Pagan Lord by Bernard Cornwell, and this is number 7, and it was another thumbs up. I love these, yes. After that, I read The Quick and the Dead by Louis L'Amour, and I really enjoyed it. That's a yes. After that, I got back to the Dandelion Dynasty, and Wall of Storms is a 5 stars extra yes. I loved this book. Very, very good. After that, I read Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and I am disappointed to say that this is a no for me. I had high expectations, and based on the concept that it was sold to me as like a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, I was like, oh yeah. And it was a huge miss. Did not like that book at all. Oh, okay. Here's a yes, though. Andy Peliquin, and this is his Darkblade series, and the first book is called Assassin. I only read one of these last year, and I hope to read more of them, but it was a yes for me. Okay, the next one, this is cute. This was recommended to me by my son, who was in 5th grade at the time, and he read this in school, and it's called From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Frankenweiler, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I do recommend it. It was very good. Okay, this is fun. This is one of my series that was on my top 10 for the year, and it's book 1 of the Gale Song trilogy, and it is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. 5 stars, absolutely yes. All right, here's another romantasy I tried. It was called Amid Clouds and Bone by Ella Fields, and it is horrible. I gave it 1 star, so absolutely not. Back with something good, I read The Ice, which is The Bound and the Broken, and it is a novella that goes in between books 3 and 4, and of course by Mr. Ryan Cahill, and this was very enjoyable. I gave it 5 stars, and it's a yes. All right, somewhere in the midst of all my scrolling, I forgot to pick a book of the month for February and got into March. Like, this is how willy-nilly this is going to be. I'm going back and scrolling, and I'm going to call The Wall of Storms my book of the month for February because I really liked it. So anyway, back to March. All right, I need to slow down so I don't keep doing this, but the March books that I went through and forgot to separate between March and February were Assassin, the Mixed Up Files book, Children of Gods and Fighting Men, Amid Clouds and Bones, The Ice. Those so far that I talked about were all March books. Now, March was my month that I read the most books because I was doing 2 different bingo boards in 2 different groups, and I was trying to black out both of them, which I blacked out one, and I came very close to the other one, but I got several bingos. So anyway, March was very heavy. So after The Ice by Ryan Cahill, I read Pawn's Gambit by Rob J. Hayes, and I loved it. I really like his Mortal Techniques books, and I need to get back to them. I'm in no rush to like read them all in a row because they all kind of stand on their own a bit, from what I can tell, but I've really enjoyed them all, so definitely check those out. That was 5 stars for me and a big yes. Next up was The Shadow Rising, which is one of my, I would say, top 2 or 3 favorite Wheel of Time books. So obviously 5 stars and obviously a yes. All right, now we get a little bit tricky. The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu. This is book 3 of the Dandelion Dynasty, and this is the one that I did not like. On Goodreads, I haven't given it a star rating. I'm going to say it's somewhere like a 2.5. This book, it just really disappointed me. So I'm going to give it a maybe that almost leans no, but I'm not giving it a no because if you've made it this far, you got to read the whole series. It's only 4 books. So I'm giving it a maybe because if you get this far, you absolutely have to keep going, but it's not great, okay? Continuing with March, I also read Guard in the Garden by Z.S. Diamati, and I loved it. 5 stars and a yes. I read The Empty Throne, which is The Last Kingdom number 8. And I gave that one 4 stars, and absolutely yes. After that, I immediately followed it up with Warriors of the Storm, which is number 9 in The Last Kingdom. Also a yes. So it looks like in March I read 11 books. That's a lot for me. And I'm going to give my book of the month to The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. All right, let's go with April. I read A Column of Fire by Ken Follett, and this is another Kingsbread novel. I always love these. Big yes. I read Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die by Willie Nelson. Now, I thought this was going to be like a major yes for me, but it ended up being a little more boring than I was hoping for. So I'm going to give this one a maybe. After that, I read The Words of Kings and Prophets, and this is book 2 in the Gale Song series by Shauna Lawless. I also gave this one 5 stars. It might be my favorite of the series, which is kind of strange because it's like a book 2. But yes, big time yes on that one for me. Grave Empire by Richard Swan. This is a yes. The Killer Angels by Michael Shara. Another yes. Now, The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This is one that we read in our Granny Book Club. And unfortunately for me, it's like a maybe leaning no. I really like the way Kristen Hanna writes. I would definitely be open to reading more books by her, but I really did not find the subject matter interesting at all. So that one's kind of a no for me. I read Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and it was a yes. I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden, and it was a yes. Okay, Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan. These are going to be mostly yeses for me. I love The Wheel of Time, yes. Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This was a surprise. Of all the romantasy I read last year, this might be my favorite, I think. So yes for Quicksilver. Kind of disappointing here. The Book That Held Her Heart. This was the final book in the Library trilogy by Mark Lawrence, and unfortunately this was a no for me. I was really disappointed with this series. It was like book 1, book 2, book 3 went from a yes, a maybe, and then a no. So sadly this whole series has kind of soured for me, and I'm a no on this one now. We're still in the month of April. I read A Wizard of Earthsea, and this was a yes for me. I would like to get back to those and read some more of them. I read an Audible original, so I listened to it. It's called Dietrich, and it's by Dawn Winslow, and I really liked that one, so it was a yes. This one was a police mystery thriller type book. And finally, this is the last book, I think. Yeah, this is the last book I read in April, and it was Quaint Creatures, Magical and Mundane by Andrew D. Meredith. This is cozy fantasy, and it was a yes. As far as my book of the month for April goes, let's see. I'm going to give it to I really liked Column of Fire, but I'm probably going to give it again to Shauna Lawless with The Words of Kings and Prophets. I just really like those books. All right, let's get started with May. May, I read my first Emily Henry book. These are kind of like romantic comedies, and the one I read was called Funny Story, and it was a yes for me. I quite enjoyed it. After that was Speaking Bones, and this is the final Dandelion Dynasty book, and it was a yes for me. I tried another Frida McFadden book after that, and this one was called The Wife Upstairs, and I didn't really like that one. I'm going to give it a maybe. Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Mist and Fury. So the year previous, 2024, I read ACOTAR. What was that book called? A Court of Thorns and Roses. And it was quite literally one of the worst books I've ever read. But I had enough ACOTAR fans just beg me, like, please just keep going because book 2 is so much better. And they weren't wrong. Book 2 is so much better than ACOTAR. So I'm going to give it somewhere between a maybe and a yes, but why not? I think I'll go ahead and give it a yes because I enjoyed this one so much more that it was just like something completely different. So yeah, I'll give it a hesitant yes. Yes, or maybe the next book was definitely a major step up. It was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This is probably my most anticipated read or new release for the year. I gave it 5 stars, so absolutely yes. The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. This is one, it's small. I've been meaning to read it forever and ever, and I finally got to it. It was very sweet. It's a yes for me. I read a book called A Song for No Man's Land by Andy Remick. And that was a no. I thought that was boring and I did not like it. The Island of the Sea Women. I loved this book. It ended up being on my top 10 for the whole year. So obviously, yes, it was 5 stars. I read a women in STEM rom-com called Love Theoretically, and I really liked it. So yes. After that, I went back to the ACOTAR world and did A Court of Wings in a Ruin, and that one's more like a maybe leaning no, to the point that I decided to not go back to the series, so I'm going to give it like a generous maybe. And it looks like that's all I read in May. So for the month of May, I mean, it's hard to choose between The Devils and The Island of the Sea Women because they're so different. And you know, I think I'm going to give it to The Island of the Sea Women, and that says nothing about how much I enjoyed The Devils, but I was expecting to love The Devils, and it gave me exactly what I was expecting. But The Island of the Sea Women was a huge surprise, and I loved it. It was my book club book with the grannies, and we all loved it. So I'm going to go book of the month for Island of the Sea Women. All right, June. All right, I read Lord of Chaos. I gave it 5 stars. It's a yes. This is obviously a reread because it's from The Wheel of Time. I read another Ali Hazelwood book. I read Deep End, and I didn't like this one quite as much. I'm going to go ahead and give it a maybe. I read True Grit by Charles Portis, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and it is a yes. Another 5 stars that I had so much fun with. Like, I knew I would like it, but I didn't know how much I would love it, and that is As You Wish. Inconceivable Tales from Making the Princess Bride. So I gave it 5 stars, like I just said. Absolutely yes. I loved it. Do the audiobook if you can. If you have any love or nostalgia in your heart for The Princess Bride, I consider this to be a must read. I loved it, and especially with the recent and tragic passing of Rob Reiner. He narrates part of the book and gets to tell his stories and what it was like filming this movie from his perspective. It was really special then, so I know it would hit even better now. So definitely check it out if you're a fan. All right, these books right here, you're going to see a couple of them. And I just want to say the worst part about these books is the covers. The covers are not like an accurate representation of how good these books were. Now, they were romances, they were a bit smutty, but I really, really liked them. They had older main characters that weren't, you know, silly and dramatic, miscommunication. I thought they had great dialogue and really believable romances. So as you see these, just forgive the titles. They were really good. The first one was called Getting Schooled, and I give it a yes. I really loved it. After that, I went back to Sun Eater finally, and I read Howling Dark, and I gave it 5 stars, and I love it. So yes. After that, I went back to my little smutty romances, and I did this one called Getting Played. It's number 2, and it's another yes. This is just a little short story by Giles Christian. It's a reread for me, but it's totally 5 stars and a big time yes. It's called Hellmouth. I think it's like under 50 pages. You should read it. Track it down, read it. It's so good. Back to the smut. As you can see, I went through a phase. I clearly can't get enough of it. This one is Getting Real, and I loved it. 5 stars, and yes. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This was our book club pick with my grannies, and none of us liked it. It is a no. I decided to get back into The Age of Legends by Michael J. Sullivan. So it had been years since I started reading them. I decided to reread the last book I read, which is number 4, and it's Age of Legend. And I really liked it. I was in a much better headspace for it this time around, and I really liked it. So yes. Age of Death right after that. I gave that one another yes. And after that, I finished up the series with number 6, and it was also a yes. Keep Me by Sarah Kate. This one was okay. I'm going to give it, a maybe to a yes. It was pretty cute. A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. Wheel of Time number 7 is a yes for me. Obviously a reread. That was June, and June was a little bit of a weaker reading month for me. In the summer, my kids are home. It's clear that I was reading a lot of stuff that didn't require a ton of brain power, and that's okay because I liked it and I had fun. So for book of the month, even though I typically don't do rereads for book of the month, I am going to pick Howling Dark for my book of the month because this is the book that I kind of remembered the least about. And it's the book that has even the strangest pacing in all of the Sun Eater books. And I was a little mixed on it the first time around, but that's the good thing about a reread is the second time around, you get a whole new perspective. And this book blew me out of the water the second time around. So I am confidently calling Howling Dark my book of the month for June. All right, let's dive into July. Queen Amid Ashes. This is a Sun Eater novella, and this is one that you read in between books 2 and 3, and it's 5 stars. Very, very, very yes. All right, this is where I start reading the Salacious Players Club books. Now, these are very smutty, but I like them. So the first one is called Praise, and it is a yes for me. Next up, this is A Song for Arbonne by Guy Gavriel Kay. I love this book. It was my number 2 favorite book I read all year. So obviously 5 stars, and obviously, where's my thumb? A yes. All right, I came right back to the Salacious Players Club, and this one's called Eyes on Me. And I think this one was more of a maybe for me. Each of these books kind of dives into a different kink, if you will, and everyone has their preferences, and apparently this one just did not do it for me quite as well, but I still liked it, so I'm giving it a maybe, but enjoyment wise, I don't know, probably a yes. After that, this is our Granny Book Club book for the month of July, and it was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I read this for the first time in 2024, and I loved it. So I had to recommend it to my granny friends, and they loved it too. I gave it 5 stars again, so a yes. Back at the club here, and this one, Give Me More. This was a yes for me. I really liked this one. Following it up with a more respectable 5 stars is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This one's going to be a movie this year. I'm really excited about it. I loved the books. I gave it 5 stars, so yes. In July, I also read Path of Daggers. This is Wheel of Time number 8. It's a yes for me. I know this is right around the time that people kind of start saying a slog happens, but Path of Daggers is still a yes book for me. Mercy by Sarah Kate. This is another Salacious Players book, and I also give this one a yes. Demon in White, clearly a reread, but one of my very favorite Sun Eater books. I am going to give this one a yes, a healthy yes, as it is a 5-star read. That's one of my favorites of the series, obviously a yes. The Will of the Many was also on my top favorite things I read in 2025, and it's a yes. I gave it 5 stars, and I thought it was really cool and very entertaining and fun. And the final book I read in July was Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate. This is another Salacious Player book, and again, they kind of all blur together, but I think this was a yes. As far as I remember, I pretty much enjoyed all of them. So July is a tough one to pick a book of the month because I read a lot of books that would be book of the month candidates, and that makes it kind of tricky. So A Song for Arbonne is what I'm going to go with because it was my number 2 book of the year. Don't sleep on these, okay? Remarkably Bright Creatures, Hamnet, Demon in White, obviously The Will of the Many. These were all so good and could all be book of the month potential, but I'm going to go with Guy Gavriel Kay. All right, in August, I finally got back to the Matthew Corbett books, another series that I really, really like. Why don't I read them more often? I don't know. But Queen of Bedlam, The Queen of Bedlam, I gave it 5 stars. It is a yes. The Evening and the Morning by Ken Follett, another big time yes for me. I really, really liked this one. I tend to give these 5 stars. And then I got to read The Execution of Ricker Flynn, and this one was a very solid 5 stars. This whole trilogy is very fun, but it's also like dark and it's so exciting. I love the way he writes dialogue and weaves in humor. So the whole trilogy is a yes for me, and I just really loved the ending. Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Rocchio, obviously a yes. I give this 5 stars. The Passage by Justin Cronin. This one came out of nowhere for me, but yes, I loved it. 5 stars. Please read these. Okay, Thursday Murder Club. This was a Granny Book Club pick, and we loved it. Like, I thought I would like it, but I loved it. Oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I'm pretty mixed on these books. They were recommended to me by a friend. This is book 1 of the Mortal Instruments series, and it's a maybe for me. Basically, I just don't think I'm the target audience for these, so I'm gonna give it a maybe. August is another tricky one for picking a book of the month, because honestly, The Queen of Bedlam, The Evening and the Morning, The Execution of Ricker Flynn, Kingdoms of Death is a reread, The Passage, Thursday Murder Club, like these were all so good. I'm gonna go with The Passage. Man, picking a book of the month can be so tricky when you read that many good books in one month. All right, let's check out September. In September, I started off with Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I loved it, so yes. I did a reread of The Great Gatsby, so that's a yes. I love The Great Gatsby. City of Ashes, this is number 2 in that Mortal Techniques series. Again, I just don't think I'm the right target audience for these, so it's another maybe. Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. You may wonder, what is book 2 of Live Ship Traders doing in the middle of your year? I had started a Live Ship Traders reread back at the end of 2024, and since it's a casual reread, I just kind of put it to the side till I felt like I was ready to come back to it. And apparently that month was September that I was ready to come back. So it's one of my favorite trilogies of all times, 5 stars, obviously a yes. After that, I read A Dead Djinn in Cairo, and this is a prequel to the series, The Dead Djinn Universe, and I kind of wanted to read this prequel to get a taste of the writing and the setting to see if I was interested or I liked it. I gave it a 2 stars, so clearly I didn't like it that much. We're going to call that a no. City of Glass, this is Mortal Instruments number 3 by Cassandra Clare. Same story. It's a maybe. Just didn't really do anything for me. After that, I read The 12, which is from the Passage series, and I loved it. So yes on The 12, yes on the whole Passage series. After that, I read Nolan, and this is a Michael J. Sullivan series. Is the beginning of a new series in the Elan world, and it takes place between Legends of the First Empire and like the Rhaenyra stuff. So I was actually a beta reader for Nolan, so I read it a long time ago, and it's been so long that I wanted to continue with the series. I went back to it. I gave it 4 stars. I really like it. Yes on Nolan. I read Dead Man's Walk. This is number 3 in the Lonesome Dove series by Mary McMurtry. And this one, honestly, I'm gonna kind of give it a maybe. I did like it. I'm glad I read it, but it wasn't, obviously, first of all, nothing is Lonesome Dove. So I'm not comparing it to Lonesome Dove. But the next book in the series was Streets of Laredo, and I loved it as well. So my expectations were kind of high for Dead Man's Walk, and it was just fine. So I'm gonna give that one a maybe. I read another... This is where I kind of get into some monster smut, so you guys don't judge me. I read one called Bears in Mind, and it's about bear shifters, and it was a maybe or a no. I did not really care for it that much. The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. This is book 2 in the Thursday Murder Club series, and my book grannies and I loved book 1 so much that we decided to do the whole series, and honestly, I think each book gets better as it goes. So absolutely yes on anything Thursday Murder Club related. City of Mirrors. This is Justin Cronin. It's the Passage number 3. And I think book 3 is my favorite of the series. 5 stars. Absolutely yes. All right. I'm going to need you guys to mind your business on this one. This started out as some curiosity and maybe a little bit of a dare. and I ended up really liking it. This is the Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nacosta. And yes, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars and I loved it. So if you're at all interested in monster smut, start here. Ashes of Man by Christopher Rocchio. This is number 5 in the Sun Eater series, and it is a yes. It's a 5-star book for me. After that, I went back to C.M. Nacosta, and this is the sequel to Morning Glory Milking Farm. It's actually the same love story told from the perspective of the male main character instead of the female main character. I gave it 5 stars and I loved it. Shut up, okay? Yes. And that is it for the end of September. I'm going to give Book of the Month to City of Mirrors, the final book in the Passage series. I love it. All right, October started out so strong. I read the whole trilogy of the Pine Deep novels. Now, these are by Jonathan Mayberry, and I'm going to just save you some time. Each one is 5 stars. Each one is an absolute yes. Number 1 is called Ghost Road Blues, and I read them back to back, which is how I recommend doing it if you're going to read it. Ghost Road Blues, Dead Man's Song, and then Bad Moon Rising. 3 books. Each one is an absolute yes. After that, I came back to The Rise and Fall with Michael J. Sullivan with Fairlane, and I gave this one 4 stars, and it is a yes. Hot for Slayer. This is Allie Hazelwood, and it's a no. I did not like that book. After that, I read East of Eden, which is clearly a yes. I loved it. It was my first time reading it, and I gave it 5 stars. Ship of Destiny. It didn't take me long to get back to my Live Ship Traders love. Obviously 5 stars, obviously a yes. And then in October, of course, Granny Book Club, we read another Thursday Murder Club book. And this one is called The Bullet That Missed. 5 stars and a yes. I also read The Sword of Kaigan. This is one that's been on my shelf for so long, and I finally got to it. It's going to land somewhere in the maybe category for me. There was a lot I liked about it. I'm very glad I read it, but I also have some issues with it. So I'm going to comfortably put that in maybe. And then the last book I read in October was Knife of Dreams. This is Wheel of Time 11. Somehow I missed 9 and 10. I don't feel like I've talked about 9 and 10. Since they are rereads, sometimes Goodreads is very wonky with how it organizes stuff. So I don't know. Wheel of Time is always a yes for me, even the weaker books, because it's just part of the process, right? So we'll just pretend like that didn't happen. Knife of Dreams is a yes for me. Now, Book of the Month for October. Another tricky one because I read so many good ones. But it's hard not to pick East of Eden as Book of the Month because, man, that's just an incredible book. But I think I'm going to cheat and make the whole Pine Deep trilogy my Book of the Month for October because I just loved it and it surprised me so much. All right, November. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is one that I picked up out of a free little library and I just kind of read it on a whim and I liked it quite a bit. More monster smut. This one is called Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic and I gave it a yes. Disquiet Gods, a reread leading up to the new release here, but I gave Disquiet Gods by Christopher Rocchio, book 6 of the Sun Eater series, a 5-star yes. And The Last Devil to Die. This is Thursday Murder Club number 4. Absolutely yes. All right, Strength of the Few. This was a new release in November, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, and I give it a yes. Sweet Berries. This is another monster smut, and I gave this one 2 stars. It's a no for me. I did not like this one. November only had a handful of books, so for my Book of the Month, I'm going to go with The Strength of the Few. I really don't trust Goodreads. I'm looking at it right now, and this reading order doesn't quite look right. But the next thing on my list for December was Shadows Upon Time. This is my book of the year. It's the final book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio, and of course it was a 5-star thumbs up yes for me. I reread The Green Mile by Stephen King. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars, so obviously a yes. The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is one that had been on my list for a long time because I hear so many people talk about it and I just see it everywhere. But this was a maybe for me. I thought it was not that original and just not that interesting. So I don't see what the hype is. But yeah, for me, it was a maybe. The Land of the Living and the Dead. It took me a while to finish up this Gale Song trilogy, and I don't know why, because I've loved each book so much, but I finished it in December. I gave it 5 stars, and it's a yes. The whole series is a yes from me. All right, this is another one that kind of came out of nowhere and really surprised me. Discovery. This is book 1 of the Strange Eon series by J.A.J. Minton, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so good. So I gave it 5 stars, and I give it a yes. You guys should check this one out. I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and this one was cute. I'll give it a yes. As you can see, for pretty much the rest of the year, this is, December, my kids are home, Christmas time, everything's crazy. I pretty much did lighter reads for the rest of the year. So I read one called Cozy for the Holidays by Liz Maverick, and it was a maybe. I read Not Another Christmas Rom-Com, and it was pretty cute. I give that one a yes. And I read The Gathering Storm. So this one is not a light throwaway book. This one is number 14 of the Wheel of Time, and I give it 5 stars. It's one of my favorite Wheel of Time books, period. So I really love The Gathering Storm. Yes. And then I finished up the year with my heated rivalry obsession. I read Game Changers number 1, which is called Game Changer, and Game Changers number 2, which is Heated Rivalry. They are both by Rachel Reed, and I loved both of them, so yes to those. All right, everybody, hopefully this video is not too much of a mess. We'll see what it's like trying to edit it. But either way, obviously I had a very good and very diverse reading year. And if you want to hear more about any of these books, if you actually made it this far in the video and you want me to elaborate on any of these, hit me up. Maybe I'll make a video about it for you, or maybe we can just chat in the comments, or you can catch me on Discord, Instagram. But if anything I talked about today is interesting to you, or you want to know why I didn't like something, whatever, just hit me up. Let's chat about it. But no matter what, thank you so much for watching this long and crazy video. Have a great day.